welcome back to the Compliance Kitchen podcast. Today, I want to briefly take a look at recent EU sanctions or restrictions on Russia and Belarus in the area of banking and also maritime and telecom exports. Before we get going, please note that what you hear on Compliance Kitchen is not legal advice and it should not be used as such. Now, on March 2nd, the EU issued new sanctions against Russia. Among other things, they outlined which banks will be disconnected from the SWIFT banking messaging system. The regulation is in effect as of now, March 12, 2022. The banks that were going to be impacted were Bank Odkrytie, Novikom Bank, Promsvyazbank, Bank Russia, Sovcombank, Vnesheskonombank or VEB, and VTB Bank. The prohibitions on these banks were also going to extend to any legal person, entity, or body established in Russia whose proprietary rights are directly or indirectly owned for more than 50% by an entity listed in Annex 14, which would be the banks that I listed for you. So the March 2nd EU regulation also prohibits investing, participating, or otherwise contributing to projects or investments co-financed by the Russian Direct Investment Fund. Of course, there may always be exceptions that may be granted by appropriate authorities for obligations that arose from contracts that were in effect before March 2nd of 2022. The regulation also prohibits the sale, supply, transfer, or export of euro-denominated banknotes to Russia or to any natural or legal person, entity, or body in Russia, including the government of the Central Bank of Russia, or for use in Russia. That being said, the regulation exempts supplies of euro banknotes for personal use under certain restrictions and certain conditions, such as the personal use of natural persons traveling to Russia or members of their immediate families traveling with them, or the official purposes of diplomatic missions. So this was on March 2nd, and then following up on these March 2nd restrictions, the EU issued a press release on March 9, where they advised that in response to the involvement of Belarus in the Russian military aggression against Ukraine, the Council of the EU adopted additional sectoral measures that are targeting this time the Belarusian financial sector. So the measures that they agreed on will restrict the provision of specialized financial messaging services, again SWIFT, to certain Belarusian banks. They listed the Belagropombank, Bank Tabrabit, and the Development Bank of the Republic of Belarus, as well as their subsidiaries. The EU was also prohibiting transactions with the Central Bank of Belarus related to the management or of reserves or assets and the provision of public financing for trade with and investment in Belarus. They also prohibited the listing and provision of services in relation to shares of Belarus state-owned entities on EU trading venues. This is as of April 12, and significantly limited the financial inflow from Belarus to the EU by prohibiting the acceptance of deposits exceeding 100,000 euros from Belarusian nationals or residents, the holding of accounts of Belarusian clients by the EU Central securities depositories, as well as the selling of euro-denominated securities to Belarusian clients. And also, there's a prohibition on the provision of euro-denominated banknotes to Belarus. Now, the Council also introduced restrictive measures in regards to exports of maritime navigation goods and radio communication technology to Russia. This is to prohibit selling, supplying, transfer, or export, whether directly or indirectly, of maritime navigation goods and technology to any natural or legal person, entity, or body in Russia for use in Russia or for the placing on board of a Russian flagged vessel. The Council also expanded the list of legal persons, entities, and bodies that are subject to the prohibitions related to investment services, transferable securities, money market instruments, and loans. And finally, the Council clarified the notion of transferable securities so as to clearly include crypto assets and thus ensure proper implementation of the sectoral restrictions in place.